Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Yaradai, yaradai, dai, dai. Yaradai, yaradai, dai, dai. Yaradai, yaradai, dai, 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 dai. Shabbat Shalom and welcome to our Shabbat morning service. We're coming to you from our beautiful sanctuary. I am Rabbi Javier Carapan, and I am joined this morning by Leslie Zucker and our technical team, Dave Zucker, Peter Pizer, and Aviva Simons. Welcome, everybody. If you are joining us on Facebook Live and would like to say hello, we invite you to type Shabbat Shalom. Click Enter. Make sure you check out the comment sections where important information will appear during the service. If you're on the virtual sanctuary, look for the links right above the player. And make sure also that you write down this number, 913-303-1134. That's Tal, our technical assistance line. You can text that number, and a dozen will call you right back should you have any problems during the streaming. I mean, problems related to the streaming, I mean. You can text them about anything, I guess, too. They may refer you to me later on. Welcome, everybody, and Shabbat Shalom. I love the way our background has been changing.
Yeah.
We have moved, by the way. We've now in the well, just because. But we still have a beautiful background. And we are thankful to be back together on this Shabbat. On page 186, we offer thanks as we sing the words of Modeh Ani.
Modeh Ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam, shehechezarta Rava emunatecha, Rava emunatecha, Modeh Ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam, shehechezarta nishmati v'chemla. Rava emunatecha, Rava emunatecha. We continue together on page 194. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who formed the human body with skill, creating the body's many pathways and openings. It is well known before your throne of glory that if one of them be wrongly opened or closed, it would be impossible to endure and stand before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, who heals all flesh, working wondrously. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofe chol basar umafli la'asot. Elohai neshama shenatata b'tehorai. Elohai neshama shenatata b'tehorai. Elohai
אלוהי נשמה שנתת בי טהורה היא. אלוהי נשמה שנתת בי טהורה היא. Page 198, we join together in offering blessings for our daily miracles. We alternate between the two of us, beginning on page 198.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lesech vivina lehavchin ben yom uvein laila.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivri.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asuri.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokef kefufim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, rokah haaretz el hamayim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ameti mitzadei gaver.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish achumim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, anoten layahev koach.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamavir sheina meinai utnuma me'afapai.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, שעשני בצלם אלוהים.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani bar chorim.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שעשני ישראל.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, עוזר ישראל בגבורה.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, עוטר ישראל בתפארה.
Amen.
Page 204, we recite together the blessing for study Torah, and then our text is from the Mishnah, could be found on page 206. But first, the blessing. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to engage in words of Torah.
אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, ואלו הם כיבוד אבהם וגמילות חסדים והשכמת בית המדרש שחרית וערבית. אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, ואלו הם בהכנסת אורחים וביקור חולים, בהכנסת כלה ולוויית הנס, ועיון תפילה, ועיון תפילה, ואהבת שלום בין אדם לחברו, ותלמוד תורה כנגד כולם, ותלמוד תורה כנגד כולם, ותלמוד תורה כנגד כולם. אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, ואלו הם.
We continue with Pezukei de Zimra on page 212.
ברוך שאמר והיה העולם ברוך הוא, ברוך עושה וראשית, ברוך אומר ועושה, ברוך גוזר ומקיים, ברוך מרחם על הארץ, ברוך מרחם על הבריות, ברוך משלם שכר טוב ליראיו, ברוך חי לעד וקיים לנצח, Baruch Podem Hatzil, Baruch Shemo. Page 218, Hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Kol הנשמה תהללויה, hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol הנשמה Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. We continue together on page 220. Ilu filu male shira kayam. Even if our mouths were full of song as the sea, and our tongues full of joy in countless waves, and our lips full of praise as wide as the sky's expanse, and our eyes to shine like sun and moon, and if our hands were spread out like heaven's eagles, and our feet swift like young deer, we could never thank you adequately, Adonai, our God and God of our ancestors, to bless your name for 10,000s of the many myriads of times you granted favors to our ancestors and to us. As we prepare for the recitation of the Shema, we recite the blessing on page 227, and then we continue with Or Chadash on the next page. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al mitzvat kriyat shema, lehamlicho belevav shalem, uleyachdo belev tov, uleovdo b'nefesh chafetza. Praise are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to recite the Shema, to declare wholeheartedly God's rule, to declare earnestly God is one, and to willingly worship God. Shal Zion Ta'ir, Al Zion Ta'ir, V'nizkeh kulanu nehera leorot, V'nizkeh kulanu Or Chadash Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך
היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להוד על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
אמת.
אמת. Page 239. Emed, there is no place where you are not. Even in the wilderness, there is your word. Emet, that pen strokes of lightning, white fire, black flame, stir the soul's passion, guide our sacred way. True and enduring is Torah. Your truth for us is certain and established, now and forevermore. Like Moses, Miriam, and all Israel, we sing out and rejoice. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, תורת תהילות, עושה פלא, עושה פלא.
שירה חדשה, שיפור גאולים, לשמך שפת הים,
יחד כולם הודו, והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות, עושה פלא, עושה פלא, עושה פלא. We will continue together with Amidah, each one of us at our own pace, silently. We begin together with Tzur Yisrael on page 240, and the Amidah go through page 260. So we start together. Tzur Yisrael, Kuma be'ezrat Yisrael, Uvdei chinumecha, Yehuda ve'Yisrael, Aleinu Adonai tzvaot shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise.
We continue with service for the reading of the Torah on page 367 with Romemu. Adonai Eloheinu hu be'isachanu lehar kodosho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu hu be'isachanu lehar kodosho. Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachanu lehar kodosho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachanu lehar kodosho. You can find a link to our reading for this morning in the comments, and also it was included in the e-news. You can click there and you'll get to the book of Amos, chapter 9, verses 7 through 15, which is the end of the book of Amos. Now, Amos is, of course, a prophet, but when we think about prophets, I think Amos is the one that we think about.
Okay.
Because, first of all, he is probably one of the earliest prophets. He lived during the reigns of Jeroboam II of Israel. I know you all know big old Jero. I mean, he's very...
Of course.
Everybody knows Jero. It's the second, though. No, not the first. It's the second one. And then, of course, of his archenemy, the king of the south, called Uzziah of Judah.
Ooh.
Oh, well, I think
Uzziah.
we don't really like Jeroboam much. But anyways, the point here is that what I mean by Amos being the paradigm of all prophets is that when you think prophets, many of us think gloom and doom.
Right.
Amos, that's all there is. Now, it's very poetically beautiful, and I'll point out some things, but it's basically it, except at the very end. So we thank the rabbis for choosing the end of the book of Amos and not any place else to be the haftarah for the combined Torah portions, Acharei Mot Kedoshim. Acharei Mot means after the death of, and then Kedoshim is Kedoshim, which some of you are very familiar with from Yom Kippur. Is our reading. You shall be holy because I, Adonai, am holy. More about that in just a minute. So the haftarah itself has a lot of accusations, again, mostly the kingdom of the north, but also about the kingdom of the south. We have here a people who, according to Amos, have transgressed the covenant, the Brit, and that is the whole issue. They have not kept their side of the Brit. And it opens, chapter 9, opens, the section that we're reading, opens with the words, Halo kivnei kushiim atem, aren't you to me just like the Ethiopians, declares God? There's nothing special about you. The other very famous phrase, although nobody quite knows what it means, I mean, seriously, it's Sukkot David Hanofelet. And now the word Sukkah, you're all familiar from the Sukkah, that's what it is. So sometimes this is translated as, I will set up again the fallen booth of David, which if you read it in English and you don't know what you're talking about, it doesn't make any sense, right? I didn't know he had a booth in this restaurant, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry, that's David's table.
That's it. We're in a roll here. I apologize, but this is the concept that a metaphor to express the redemption of Israel is that God will rebuild Sukkot David.
you know, there's nowhere else in the in the story of David that David had a special sukkah of any kind. So what most scholars think this means is that this is a promise of redemption. The interesting piece is that this is happening 30 or 40 years before the actual destruction of the northern kingdom. So what is Amos really saying? Is he predicting the fall of the northern kingdom and, of course, the fall of the southern kingdom that will follow a few years later? What is he saying here? Is he seeing what's coming? Now, a lot of scholars and historians will tell us that he kind of knew because Assyria, in this particular case, was becoming more powerful and more threatening. So he saw that little Israel would not be able to survive. And the reference to David is the reference to the time when Israel was then at its greatest expansion and most powerful. So maybe Sukkot David means the house of David, like the dynasty of David will be reestablished. And the other phrase that is very famous from this section of the Torah portion, I'm just giving you quotations, it's this beautiful imagery towards the end that says, the plowman shall meet the reaper, v'nigash choresh bakotzer, v'dorech anavim b'moshech hazara. And so the plowman shall meet the reaper, and the treader of grapes will hold the bag of seeds for them. So okay. What does that mean? Well, what it means, apparently, is that things are going to be so wonderful that you are harvesting at the same time that you're plowing.
Oh, wow, okay.
It's that good, if that makes sense. In other words, what we are used to, the seasons of planting, of seeding, and watching it grow, and then harvesting it, it'll be constant. Everything will be so abundant that you won't have any time to, the plowman will will meet the reaper, like at the same time. Okay, it's time to plow. Wait a minute, I'm harvesting. You can't do this. Right. I don't know how that will work in practical terms, but the metaphor is that they both will meet together. So that is, the end is very hopeful. And that is one of the reasons why we read this part of the text. But the connection to the Torah portion, I think, is the most interesting piece of them all. Now, remind you all that in the book of Leviticus, the section that we're reading, Kedoshim, talks about, you shall be holy to me, for I, the Lord, am holy. I have set you apart from all other people to be mine. Lihiot li le'am.
Okay.
Right? And how does Amos open the section that we're reading? Saying exactly the opposite.
Oh my.
Halo kivnei kushiim atem li bnei Israel. Again, the word li there. Aren't you to me just like the Ethiopians? Nothing special about you people. Nothing. Right? You're just, to me, you're like anybody else. So the Haftarah really, and this is very unusual for Haftarot. Some of you have been with us for a few years now, and I like to talk about the Haftarah. Sometimes that's all I do, but anyways, it's okay. The Haftarah stands in tension with such a teaching that we find in the Torah. Because Amos really denies Israel's uniqueness and asserts a fixed reality that there is no divine election. So I think the rabbis are trying to not resolve the tension. That's my view.
Oh, okay.
They are not trying to say, well, look at Kedoshim and look at
what Amos says, they may be saying the same way in different, no. They're simply saying, we have two ways of looking at this. And this has been part of the Jewish mind, if you want, since ancient times. Are we really chosen, or are we just like everybody else?
Yeah.
Now, some of you may have read Zionist literature early on, and one of the things that Herzl talked about is that why can't we be like every other people? I mean, that's the whole point, right? That Jews are like everybody else. Why should we all be just studying Torah and not having a land and not being able to do that? So you can see that these things have been with us for centuries. I don't have the solution, but I think that one way to look at this is that Amos offers one way to look at this idea of chosenness, and it's through the idea of covenant, and the idea of that in a covenant, in the Brit, there is responsibility for both parties. So God may exalt us, or calls us, better word, to be a holy nation, but that's from God's perspective. If we are to be a holy nation, we have to do our part to be a holy nation. Mm-hmm. I think that a lot of commentators have talked about the fact that in the words of the Torah, and I know that translation is tricky always, right? So when we hear Kedoshim tihiu ki kadosh ani Adonai, we think, oh, we are a holy nation. But if you really read what it says is, you shall be a holy nation. We are not. This is always in the future. And it was in the future then, it is in the future today.
Wow.
So Amos is not really that far off when he says, you're not special.
Right.
And the way that I see the rabbis harmonizing is that Amos says, you have the possibility of being Kedoshim if you follow the covenant. So everything is in the future. But today, don't think too highly of yourselves. And I think that's a reminder to all of us. And I was thinking about the idea of how sometimes we hear about American exceptionalism and yes. How we're already there. And our ancestors were not Kedoshim. We are not so holy either. And we have a lot of work ahead of us, both as Jews and as members of this great nation. And keep in mind that perhaps there isn't really a tension, because one is talking about the future and the other one, Amos, is talking about what you can do today to make your conditions better.
Nice.
But again, Amos, probably one of the most famous of all our classical prophets. So before we read the words of Amos, or Amos in Hebrew, we recite together the blessings before on page 372. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratza v'divreihem הנאמרים באמת. Baruch atah Adonai, הבוחר בתורה ובמשה עבדו ובישראל עמו ובנביאי האמת בצדק. הלא כבני כושיים אתם אלי בני ישראל, נאום אדוני. הלא את ישראל העליתין מארץ מצרים ופלישתים מכפתור וארם מקיר. Behold, Adonai God has got eye upon the sinful kingdom. I will wipe it off the face of the earth, but I will not wholly wipe out the house of Jacob, declares Adonai, For I will give the order and shake the house of Israel through all the nations. And one shakes sand in a sieve, as one shakes sand in a sieve, and not a pebble falls to the ground. All the sinners of my people shall perish by the sword, who boast, never shall the evil overtake us or come near us. In that day, Akim et Sukat David Anofelet, I will set up again the fallen booth of David. I will mend all breaches and set up its ruins anew. I will build it firm as in the days of old, so that they shall possess the rest of Edom and all the nations once attached to my name, declares Adonai, who will bring this to pass. A time is coming, declares Adonai. וניגש חורש בקוצר ודורש ענבים במושך עזרה. When the plowman shall meet the reaper and the trader of grapes, him who holds the bag of seeds, when the mountains shall drip wine, and all the hills shall wave with grain, I will restore my people Israel, Ami Israel, that they shall rebuild ruined cities and inhabit them. They shall plant vineyards and drink their wine. They shall till gardens and eat their fruits. And I will plant them upon their soil, never more to be uprooted. For the soil I have given them is theirs, says Adonai your God. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל העולמים, צדיק בכל הדורות, האל הנאמן, האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק, על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה, שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו, לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. As we gather on this Shabbat, we think of those in need of healing. You may have access to the Misheberach list through the e-news that you received yesterday. You can also follow the link in the comments. If you are willing to offer names, we invite you to type the comments in the comments so we can all see them. Go ahead, type them, click enter. As together, we join in the words of the Misheberach on page 371. We think of those in need of healing. We also turn our prayers and thoughts to those who help in healing. First responders and health workers all over our country and the world during this pandemic. May those who care for the sick with their hands, their voices, and their hearts be blessed with courage and stamina. May those who pursue healing through medical skills and knowledge be blessed with insight, patience, and compassion. May all of us, the sick and the well together, find courage and hope.
Oh
רפואה שלמה, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We conclude our service with the reading of the Torah and Haftarah. We join on page 374 for Etz Chaim. Etz Chaim li lamachaziki v'tomechea meushar derachea darchei Noah v'chol netivotea shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha b'nashuva chadesh yameinu As we prepare for our moment of remembrance, I invite you to turn to page 595. Yesh kochavim, there are stars up above, so far away that we see their light, long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memory keeps shining ever brightly, though the time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. Joining us this morning in visiting our service, we invite you to type names if you are remembering a loved one, a yortzeit today, on the comments, and please click enter. As a congregation, we are observing the Shloshim period for Jeff Frankel, brother and brother-in-law of Floyd and Carol Frankel. Sion Rachbarad, father and father-in-law of Mata and Mark Miller-Lyle, and brother-in-law of Jim and Betsy Halili. Bill Zartman, uncle of Gloria and Howard Pittler. Jerome Jerry Inger, father and father-in-law of Sharon and Milton Katz, grandfather of Stephanie Kolb, and great-grandfather of Asa and Eli Maker and Shia Kolb, and Gerald Bayer, father and father-in-law of David and Barbara Bayer. On this Shabbat, we remember the following yortzeits of members of our congregation: Hans Jane Adler, Joseph Berkowitz, Helen Brecker, Isabel I. Childers, Craig Citron, Samuel Feynman, Bernard Fremerman, Helen Rose Gandel, Kim Gray Moss, Ida Biggers Haken, Lawrence J. Callender, Leonard Klein, Minnie Klutznik, Dorothy Kreitman, Lillian Lustig, Ned Nelkin, Daniel Rutman, Sarah Sherman, Leo Schultz, Esther Silverstein, Beth Smith, Merle Smith, Volvo Suker, Shirley Zeskin. Zichronam livracha, may the memories be for a blessing. Together on page 598, we recite Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei rabba, be'elema divra chirute ve'amlich malchute, b'chayechon u'v'yemechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, b'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imhu amen. Yehei shemei rabba mevarach le'alam u'le'almei almaya, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירם בלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו
הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן.
עושה שלום במרומה, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו
It's time for some announcements. We would like to thank everyone who's joined us from our area and from around the country and the world. Special thanks to Leslie Zucker for the beautiful music and our technical team who are two of them at least. Aviva is, of course, part of our team here at Beth Torah, but Dave and Peter are part of a group called BOW, Beyond Our Walls, and they would like to invite you to join them. If you're technically inclined, reach out to Dave or to Aviva, and they'll love to have you. They'll train you, and you'll be able to help Beth Torah that way. We'll love to have you. It's a non-speaking part. That's if some people don't want to say anything in public, this is your perfect thing. You may have to dance in the back like Dave does, but that's optional.
And it's so important. It has helped us this year to get beyond our walls. That's why we can reach all of you at home.
So our next Shabbat service is this coming Friday already, April 30th at 6:30 p.m. It'll be on Facebook Live and the virtual sanctuary. And it's also an opportunity for us to do one of our different formats. This is Ask the Rabbi, and that piece is going to be on Zoom, and Rabbi Monica Kleiman will be answering questions about making Jewish time. Anything about the calendar you ever wanted to ask, you can send the questions ahead of time or just come that day and ask Rabbi Kleiman all your questions. And finally, just a reminder to everybody that the privacy health care regulations that we have in our country do not allow hospitals or nursing homes to let us know if you've been there. So sometimes we're not aware if you have been to the hospital. So we need your help. If you would like us to know, you can get in touch with us or ask a family member to do so. You can also call CBT rabbis to your emergency instructions, and so somebody will do that, and we'll love to take care of your needs that way.
And for CBT members, our virtual annual meeting is coming right up. It is next Sunday, a week from tomorrow, May 2nd. I cannot believe I just said a week from tomorrow is May, but it is, and it will be at 10:15 a.m. You got information about the annual meeting, both mail and email, and that will be on Zoom. And speaking of the annual meeting, we do have one more. I know a lot of folks end up having budget questions, and we are having a Q&A on the 2022 budget tomorrow, Sunday, April 25th at 10 a.m., and that Zoom link can also be found in this week's e-news. And then our next song session is Wednesday, April 28th, Virtual Sanctuary, and that other place, Facebook, 7 o'clock.
And we encourage every one of you out there to keep connections up. Our ksharim are very important to connect with all of us here and, of course, with your friends at Beth Torah. We're still in the pandemic. We are here for each other. So we join together in Enkel Eloheinu on page 629. I'm sorry.
Enkel
Eloheinu, Enkel Adonenu, Enkel Malkeinu, Enkel Moshienu, Enkel Eloheinu, Enkel Adonenu, Enkel Malkeinu, Enkel Moshienu. Mich Eloheinu, Mich Adonenu, Mich Malkeinu, Mich Moshienu. Enkel Eloheinu, Enkel Adonenu, Enkel Malkeinu, Enkel Moshienu, Enkel Eloheinu,
Malkeinu, Enke Moshienu. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adoneinu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu. Enke Eloheinu, Enke Adoneinu, Enke Malkeinu, Enke Moshienu, Enke Eloheinu, Enke Adoneinu, Enke Malkeinu, Enke Moshienu. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Take care of each other out there.